Welcome to Postpartum Unfiltered.
The podcast where we get real about what happens during the postpartum period.
I am Jillian,
And I'm Sarah.
and we are two doctor moms who were not prepared for what postpartum would bring.
By sharing your stories, we hope to spread awareness and allow other families to be more prepared for the time after birth.
Okay, hello and welcome back. We still have Liba with us, and she is going to start off now with giving us some pertinent details from her second childbirth experience, and then we'll talk about that postpartum journey. Hey,
So
Liba.
with my second, I, as my husband says, prepared for birth like it was my job. I was really committed to having a different birth experience that was not the physical and emotional trauma that I had with my first. So I was going to the chiropractor, I was going to pelvic PT, I was going to the acupuncturist, I was spending all this time on my yoga ball, I was walking. And I also really wanted to have a spontaneous labor. Obviously, that's not really something you can control. Your body either does it or doesn't. And I will say I spent that entire pregnancy kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop because I had had these complications with my first. I'm like, okay, when am I going to get the preeclampsia? And I never did. My blood pressure was fine.
Amazing.
So I went into labor when I was 38 and 6 days, I think, 38 weeks and 6 days. And I had this easy early labor that I was able to just totally ignore for 24 hours. I was just like hanging out. And then as soon as we put my son to bed that Saturday night, I was like, and we need to go to the hospital right now. So we ended up getting admitted at 11 o'clock and the baby was born at 12:35 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So it was very fast.
Yeah.
And that was very intense, but I had my totally redemptive birth experience. He was born in the tub in 3 pushes.
Oh.
He was perfect in every way and totally healthy. I felt amazing about the whole thing. I had, excuse me, amazing support from my providers. And a friend who acted as our doula. And I just felt like it had totally redeemed my previous birth experience.
That's amazing.
Which was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I totally credit all the physical prep that I did for why it was so easy.
Yeah.
Everything was all aligned and he just slid on out. And he was born
ready.
exactly at 39 weeks.
That's amazing. And so what was that second experience like in the hospital where everything went smoothly?
Well, we just wanted to go home. So, we were admitted at 11 p.m. on Saturday night and we were home by 5 on Monday.
Nice.
Basically from the second I went to the postpartum room, I was like, so when can you discharge me? Because I'm fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't totally fine. I again had some complicated second degree tearing, including, did you know you can tear your clitoris in half?
Oh, that's
happened to me.
Something I want to think about.
No.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. So thankfully it wasn't so painful actually. But it did mean that I needed like some significant repair. But thankfully the doctor who is present at my birth is a sexual medicine fellow and totally nerded out doing my repair because this is exactly what she wants to do is make sure that somebody's clitoris still works after it's ripped in half. Yeah. You said this was postpartum unfiltered.
Yeah, it is totally, and I love it. And I'm just I'm laughing about the thought of this provider who's like, "This is so cool," and you're like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, totally cool."
I was honestly, I was laughing kind of with her, like I was in a really good mood because I just had a baby and
you gotta ride that oxytocin high as far as it will take you. It'll take you all the way through clitoris repair. So
yes, exactly. So
sorry, this is also funny because this is your good birth experience.
Yes, this is my good birth experience. It was really not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like I know that sounds insane. It really wasn't.
It's funny because it's going to make sense to all the women who have had babies. And it's
Yeah.
going to sound horrifying to the people who haven't.
who have not yet had a baby, but it was really fine. And I just feel like I had exactly the people at my birth who needed to be there. Like that was just the attending on call. I had never met her before,
Yeah.
but she was there and she did the
Stars
repair.
aligned.
Yes, exactly. So in postpartum, I had these amazing nurses who were just, really supportive. And I also just felt much more like mentally and emotionally present, because I also did not come into birth totally exhausted from a long labor,
Yeah.
like I was well rested. Um, and this baby was able to latch right away. He definitely did have feeding challenges, and he does have or did have a tongue tie that we got released, but it was not the same kind of experience. And also I had all these tools and was went into the birth experience prepared for anything in terms of his feeding.
Mhm.
So brought literal physical tools to the hospital with me, like syringes in case I needed to supplement. Um, and it just like felt much more manageable rather than this sort of devastating, my baby can't do what he's supposed to, that I experienced with my first. And I just spent the whole time in the postpartum room, like, I just want to go home and sleep in my own bed. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Get me out of here. But like, I was able to have 2 visitors. About 18 hours after he was born, my friend came and took a bunch of pictures of us and
Oh, sweet.
him. And, earlier that day, someone had brought me lunch while my husband was at home, like visiting with our toddler. And just, being able to have visitors if I wanted them
Yeah.
was so nice and so impossible with my first.
So different.
That was just a game
Yeah.
changer. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think like doing your own sort of like mental prep, just having the experience before gave you a lot, like set your expectations a lot better, like for everything or feeding particularly?
I think for everything, because I knew how physically difficult it could be, and like how much pain I could potentially be in. And I obviously like physically prepared to try not to have that pain postpartum. That was part of what I was doing with the PT was, making sure that I didn't have a bunch of tension. So I think that then allowed me, I was like mentally prepared, like anything could happen. And so when it was just sort of easy and not difficult, that felt really nice.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it could be like this. I had sort of prepared for the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense because that's what we've
That's
had
what I'd been
experience
through
with.
previously.
Yeah. And then how about the postpartum anxiety? Did you have the same
I
experience with
have
that?
not had any anxiety. I've had,
Amazing.
I think what's minor new mom anxiety around like my toddler's interactions with him and like his physical safety. Like,
Yeah.
off your brother.
Don't sit on him, please.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that everyone goes through that if you have a toddler and a baby.
Yeah.
And it's not like consuming. It's just like, okay, I need to keep this baby safe from his brother who doesn't know his own strength.
Right. And you're still pretty early postpartum this time.
Yeah,
so
we're technically still in the 4th trimester.
Yeah. So how's the sleep and the exhaustion and the physical recovery from birth going?
Everything is better. I was out at like 3 weeks postpartum. I went to something at my son's school and it wasn't like, oh God, this is something I have to do and I feel terrible. It was like, I'm fine. I'm up for going. I wouldn't have gone by myself. My husband came, but physically I felt great. After about 2 weeks, I was able to wear him without feeling any kind of pressure to my pelvic floor. I really didn't have much pain at all. The clitoral tear healed beautifully.
Yes, that fellow. She was there for you.
She was there. She was there. So I feel like once I had the follow-up at 2 weeks for her to check that, and she goes, you would never know that someone had been here unless you knew what you were looking for. And so after that, I was like, I'm great. Everything is great.
Yeah, it's all beautiful.
I dubbed her the Clit wizard to my friend.
Sure. That makes sense.
Because that is what
totally
she is.
Needs to be on her business card if it's not already.
Well, so at my 6-week follow-up, I have a Cricut that I've been like very into making, cut vinyl stuff with. So I
Oh.
made her a big tumbler that had like an anatomically correct clitoris, and it said Clit Wizard and her name, and she loved it. I was
I
like,
bet she
she's
did.
gonna think this is totally weird, or she's gonna love it, and she loved it. So I'm very,
Yeah. So I'm a genius. She's a genius. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Everybody's good. That's amazing.
yeah. So I just, the physical recovery was easy. Feeding has had its challenges, but I feel equipped to manage them. And I was very committed to not being my own lactation provider. So
Look at
literally when I was
you.
still in the hospital, I called the lactation practice that I refer clients to when they're like too challenging
Mhm.
for me. And I was like, hi, I need you.
Yeah. Help me.
Excuse me. So I
Yeah.
saw them right away. And again, like what we were speaking about before, about the importance of connecting with providers beforehand, I knew as soon as I gave birth who I needed to see and who I would
Mhm.
call if I had X, Y, or Z issue.
Yeah.
That made a huge difference because I think then I could feel like the challenges that came up, like with his feeding, were manageable. And, I emailed my pelvic floor PT right away and was like, hi, here's what happened with my birth. When can I see you?
P.S. Did you know about the clitters thing?
And she goes, in my experience, they heal very well. I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thank God. And so are you getting back into more of the movement practice and stuff that you want to do? Are you able to be
Yeah,
physically active? I know it's been freezing cold right now. It's
it's been so cool.
February now, but
I've been able to go on a lot of walks, which has been awesome.
yeah.
And I am officially returning to pelvic PT today.
Oh,
Actually,
look at you.
I'm
You
very
got it
excited.
all lined up.
Got it all
Yeah,
lined up.
good.
So that has been really good. Like I've felt physically able to move my body in ways that feel good.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously that makes a huge difference for mental health as well.
Yeah. And do you feel like because you had the pelvic floor challenges before and you had the therapy for your first postpartum, that you're like a little bit more in tune with your body? So you're able to recognize like what feels okay, what feels maybe like this movement's not safe for me at this time. And
Very much. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that helpful for the mental health aspect, or is that still kind of challenging to know like, okay, this isn't going exactly how I want it, or is that how you feel, or do you feel like
I haven't experienced any like sense like this isn't going how I want it.
okay,
Um,
cool.
I am a person who for a long time has done like been very focused on intuitive eating and intuitive movement.
Hmm.
And so I feel pretty connected to like what feels good or right or needed in my body at a particular moment.
Amazing.
Um, and so I think that has been super helpful for the postpartum period. I have actually found it challenging to make myself rest because I feel physically good. And
Okay, yeah.
but then I know that my body, like
Yeah, like
I just grew a human for 9 months and then gave birth. And
yeah.
you need rest, even if I feel well and not in pain. So that has been my challenge this period actually,
Okay,
is
is
just
the
to lay
balance of
down.
resting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that balance is hard, and I think that's another thing we don't really talk about because it's having a baby, it brings up a whole like new set of the way you got to live your life, and then adding another baby. I don't feel like people talk about that second baby enough
Yeah.
because you think like, oh, it's another baby, I've done this before, so I'm like more prepared in a lot of these areas. You're a lot more at least mentally prepared for the birth and like immediately after. And I have two little ones, and there's a bunch of, handful of people at our daycare that have two little ones, and they're like, I thought the second one would be twice as much work, and it is way more than that, like to
Yeah.
have two together.
And honestly, I feel like my first child is the work. Like my baby's just kind of along for the ride. He's a
Yeah.
cheater. We took him to a concert at a brewery the other night, and
Mhm.
whatever,
It's
he
chill.
chilled.
Yeah.
But, my toddler needs extra attention because he's been displaced.
Mhm.
And, besides that, he's a three-nager, and 3 nager, and 3 nagers need a lot. Um, so I, that has been my challenge this period actually, is just to lay down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like my first child is the work. Like my baby's just kind of along for the ride. He's a cheater. We took him to a concert at a brewery the other night, and he chilled. But, my toddler needs extra attention because he's been displaced. And, besides that, he's a three-nager, and 3 nagers need And nobody talks about that, like the adjustment with your older child when you have a second child.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I definitely feel like that has been more work than having a baby.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I think that's such a good point, because when they're brand new, they basically eat and sleep, like they can be fussy. It's exhausting. It is totally exhausting, but they're pretty adaptable because they can't really move their body and they just want to be close to you anyway. So if you can hold them or baby wear them or just have them close in a stroller, they're pretty chill as long as they're not hungry, And it's once they start to get a little older and your other child's a little older. And one of my sister-in-law said, these kids of mine wouldn't get in as much trouble if they didn't interact with each other. It's these unpredictable interactions between these boys that are causing all sorts of emotional chaos in the house.
Oh yeah. I have seen that with my two nephews who are like they're best friends, but then they're constantly at each other.
Yeah.
And you just never know what they're going to do.
And it's wild to watch. And I'm sure you'll have so many cute stories as it goes along. And you'll have those funny ones that are not cute in the moment, but are very funny afterwards. Like ours are 20 months apart. So they're 3 and 1 now. And our 1-year-old was playing with a 3-year-old, but he was like inadvertently mashing his head down into this cushion. So a 3-year-old was like screaming. The 1-year-old's laughing because he thinks it's a game, right? And you're just like, what are you doing?
Attack.
Yeah. And it's still like everyone's postpartum journey is different, right? So like you're feeling great now, which is amazing. And it's still exhausting. So it all depends on how long you have any sort of challenges ongoing as these kids grow and age and all of this stuff happens. So
right. Like
I
if
love
I
hearing all these
physically
stories
as well, I totally would not have the bandwidth right now. I think I would be a mess.
Yeah.
Like if I were having a hard physical recovery. Yeah. Or if feeding were more complex than it has been.
Yeah.
For sure. I think my big challenge right now is actually figuring out how I can get back to working.
Yeah.
I don't have childcare for my baby.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how can I figure this out? Because I would really like to work.
Yeah. Yeah. You just wear them, right?
Yeah.
People are understanding.
I don't know. I'm like climbing on people's couches and peering at their boobs while they're nursing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I also had my first son during 2020. So I had to do a virtual lactation consultant.
Oh yeah. You're like manipulating your camera, like trying to show them your nipple.
Yeah, it was horrific. My 10 out of 10 did not enjoy that experience because
I bet.
I'm one of those people that's like distracted by seeing myself on the camera. And then you're just like topless on the camera with a stranger.
Like, what is going on there?
Yeah. And then you're like, can you see? My husband had to come like hold the camera.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm sitting on the couch. He's like crouched down with the iPad, like twisting it all these ways. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's okay. Those memories will be seared into my brain forever.
Yeah. Yep.
Living rent-free in my nightmares.
I feel like a lot of people have that about their experiences with early breastfeeding.
Yeah. Yeah. And breast milk was everywhere. So good thing it's good for everything because it was on everything.
Because it was moisturizing your couch.
Exactly. And my legs and my husband. So it's fine. So anything else that's going on this time postpartum that's better, different, stands out to you?
This baby is really cute.
I know. I'm watching him sleep on you and I just love it. I know. Those cheeks. He was doing the little like half smile thing as he was falling asleep.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
He does that a lot. Yeah. I just like can't stop looking at him. So it makes it hard to get anything done.
Makes sense.
I told my husband that when I say something about not being productive, he needs to tell me that I'm being very productive because I'm taking care of our newborn and I just grew a human for 9 months.
Yeah.
I think that's an important reminder for anyone. I'm in like a due date Facebook group. Those places are interesting. I'll just say that. But a lot of people have been talking about like, I feel like I need to be more productive. And it's like, you are being productive by caring for your baby. Like, don't worry about putting your baby down so you can sweep the floor. Like, leave the crumbs.
Yeah.
Because taking care of a baby is productive.
And it's exhausting. It's a lot. I think that kind of ties into this idea that it's natural, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
it seems, or I guess you can easily convince yourself that it's like the baseline, what you need to do. And so then you're doing the bare minimum, right? Like you're keeping them alive. That's the bare minimum. And so
You're actually doing the
I
most.
think, yeah, yeah, but that's not really what's happening. You just went through this marathon of growing a human, then a sprint at the end of that marathon to give birth, and you're in another marathon trying to feed them, heal yourself, and do it all while not sleeping enough.
Yeah.
It's
Totally
wild.
doable, totally manageable. You
Yeah.
have lots of energy and time for all of the household tasks.
Yes, yes. Also, so good. All right. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm
My
so
pleasure. This
happy
is
that
really
you got
fun.
to bring your little man with you, because
Me too.
he's look at him. Oh, he's too cute. I wish everyone could see him.
There you
Because,
go.
oh, hi, baby. Look.
Say hello, Jillian.
He's like, no, please stop. All right, Liba. Well, I thank you again, and I look forward to sharing your story with everybody, and I am
too.
sure that it's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Postpartum Unfiltered.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, comment, or leave a review.
You can follow us on Instagram at postpartum.unfiltered.
If you feel called to share your postpartum experience, please contact us on Instagram or at drjilliancampbell.com.